Hello and welcome back to Algebra 1-2, where we discuss topics in Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and additional mathematics. And in this lesson, we are looking at how to factorize by grouping. So we're looking at factorizing by grouping. So our objective for this lesson is to use the grouping technique to factorize algebraic expressions. So how do we use this factorize by grouping technique? Well, a couple of things. One, to apply the technique of factorizing by grouping, we need to have 4 terms in our expression. That expression needs exactly 4 terms. And these terms are grouped in pairs of 2 based on the factors that they have in common. That's important as well. Thirdly, we use the highest common factor on each pair. And after we have done that, we group our external factors in one bracket and we simply write back one of the other brackets. The 2 brackets in this case tend to be identical. Of course, this may not mean a lot to you, so let's go into an example and show you how it's done. Before we get into that though, let's look at this question. It says expand bracket a plus b bracket x plus y. How do we expand this again? And we recall that if we use the distributive law, we can expand this bracket and get a very, very useful result that we can look at and see how it works. So we can take this bracket and multiply this x plus y by saying this a, first of all, multiplied by the x plus y, followed by the plus b multiplied by the x plus y. So let's do that. And a times x, we just simply write it down as ax or xa. And a times y, we simply write it down as ay. Then followed by b times x. And b times y is by. And this is where it ends. We're finished, actually, because there are no what we call similar terms or like terms in this thing. We cannot combine these 4 into one term because they're all different. This is ax, this is ay, this is bx, this is by. They cannot be combined into one term, so we have to leave it as is. So this here is our answer. Thing is now, how can we reverse this? How can we work it backwards so that we get back to this a plus b x plus y? And that is the focus of our lesson for today. How can we reverse this? So let's start by writing down ax plus ay plus bx plus by. Now it kind of looks like if we keep these 2 together, such as these 2, they have a in common, and if we keep these 2 together, they have b in common, then we can do something interesting with it. For example, we could factor out the a from here. And remember, when we're factorizing, we are finding something in common using the highest common factor. I should say that. So we're using the highest common factor. So we pick out the highest common factor here, which is a. And we're going to divide these 2 by a and write down the result. So if we divide ax by a, we're left with x. And if we divide ay by a, we're left with y. Also over here, b is the common factor. And I should point out that the common factor takes the sign that is here. Whatever sign is here, whether it's plus or minus, that is the sign of the common factor for the second bracket. So b, we're going to divide bx by b, it leaves us with x. And we divide by b, and it leaves us with y. So notice now that we are back exactly here. So by picking out the common factor and by dividing through the 2 brackets by the respective common factors, we end up back here. So all that is left to do then, notice your 2 brackets. Your 2 brackets are exactly alike. This is important when you're factorizing by grouping, that your brackets end up being exactly alike. Now, all that we need to do then is to put our outside factors in one bracket. So we have a here and a plus b there. So we write it in one bracket. And we write back one of the other brackets. And there it is. We have successfully reversed this thing that we just did. So here we expanded it and then we reversed it to get this. And so the question here would say expand and simplify, and this is what you would get. And then the question here would say factorize. Let's look at some examples then. Here we have factorized completely a squared minus ab minus ac plus bc. So let's write it down. a square minus ab minus ac plus bc. Now what is common? These two have a in common. So we can keep these two together, and these two have c in common. We can keep those two together. Sometimes you may have to move them around, but in this case, they're nice and well arranged. So we just go ahead and factor them. Now look at this bracket. The common factor here would be a. This is a squared. That is ab. So the common factor here is a. And what we're going to do now is to divide a squared by a. Remember, a squared means a times a, and we're dividing that by a. And so we divide that out, and it's left with an a. So ab now divided by a leaves us with simply b. ab divided by a, notice that, left with a b. There's a minus, so we keep the minus there. Now, we remember, the factor for this bracket takes the sign that is here, so we're going to write a minus, and c, because c is what is common there. And so you have a minus ac divided by minus c. The negatives cancel out, the c's cancel out, and it leaves us with a. Now we have a bc, which is a positive bc, and we're dividing it by negative c. The c's cancel out, and what we're left with is a minus b. And notice now that both of our brackets are exactly the same. And because they're exactly the same, we know that we're almost done. We can take our outside factors, which are this and this, a and c, a and minus c, and we write those two together in a bracket by themselves, a minus c, and we simply write down the other bracket, a minus b, and we are through. We are finished with this. We have successfully factorized this expression in that we have taken this sum or difference and we have totally rewritten it as a product. And that is what it means to factorize. Let's look at another example. Here we have 3g minus 3t plus 2mg minus 2mt. Let's make that a little bigger. All right. Now, notice that we can keep these two together. And we can also keep these two together. These two have 3 in common. And these two have 2m in common. So we can simply start by writing down our 3 here. And we're going to divide these two items in the bracket, these two terms, by our 3. So 3g divided by 3 gives us g. And minus 3t divided by 3 gives us t. On this side, we have the common thing here is 2m, so we write down our 2m. It takes that sign. We open our bracket and we say 2mg divided by 2m, so 2mg divided by 2m, that gives us g, and minus 2mt divided by 2m, of course, gives us a minus t. And this becomes our answer. Almost done. We take our outside factors, we put them in one bracket, 3 plus 2m, and we write back one of these brackets which are exactly the same thing, g minus t. And there we go. That's our answer. One more example. We have 6ap plus 15a minus 4ap minus 10. Again, let me just make this a little bit bigger. All right, so here we can use a common factor. We can keep these two together. So let's keep these two together. And let's keep these two together. Now for a common factor, notice that a is common. So let's write that down. Now let's look at the numbers for this bracket. We realize that we can divide both 6 and 15 by 3. That will be the highest number we can divide 6 and 15 by. So our common factor here would be 3a. And we're going to divide this 6ap and 15a by 3a. Now 6ap divided by 3a. Let's divide. 3 into 6 goes 2. The a's cancel out. And what we're left with is 2p. So we have 2p here. And then we have 15a divided by 3a. Of course, the a's cancel out or divide out. And 3 into 15 goes 5 times. So we have a plus 5 here. Now we use a minus here, so the factor will take a minus sign. What is the highest number we can use to divide 4 and 10? Notice that this doesn't have a p, so we have to look at the numbers alone. So it's what's the highest number that can divide both 4 and 10? That would be 2. And so we write down our 2, and so now we're going to divide negative 4p by negative 2. This 2 divides it to 4 2 times. The negatives cancel out, and so we have 2p. And then we have a negative 10 divided by a negative 2, and that gives us a positive 5. And we're almost done. So we can take our outside factors, write them down together. That gives us 3a minus 2, and write back one of our brackets, 2p plus 5, and that's our answer. We are done. We have factorized completely this expression. Make sure that you practice these skills so that you cannot forget them. Somebody once told me that one of the differences between an amateur and a professional is that an amateur practices until they know how to do the thing, while a professional practices it until they cannot possibly get it wrong. It's very interesting. So make sure you find some questions and you practice the skill until you learn it, until you know it inside out. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, we ask you please to subscribe before you go. And thank you very, very much for watching.